you were a student at the school of the San Francisco Ballet, is that correct?
That's right.
Did they teach partnering at that school? How did you learn partnering, the basics?
Yeah, I learned from Lou Christensen, and I started pretty young. There was a regular class they had, and I remember I danced with Virginia Johnson, and she was a wonderful little dancer, and we just always worked together. And then later, as a matter of fact, it wasn't, I worked with Nancy Johnson. Now, she was older, and she was the ballerina at the time. And she taught me, really taught me. And she was amazing. She had lots of flexibility, but she needed help because she wasn't just a dynamic soloist type, like Balanchine once, like this. But she was, talk about an adagio partner, wonderful. And she taught me, she would just place herself, and I could lift, just like I'm lifting my arms up, nothing. It should just, and because it's all placement, so she taught me amazing things about balance and coordination. And I give her the credit for a lot of my skills from her knowledge. And I happen to have, I have a gift for knowing when people, when they're going to do something, I seem to know. I don't know how, but if a girl, if we plan to do, say, saute failli, well, for an audience that doesn't know ballet, if we're planning to have a preparation for a jump and the girl doesn't do it, I know she's not going to do it. I don't know how. I just do it. So when that happens, I'm just right there when she does something else, and that is amazing. That's my gift. But she gave me the knowledge. So when I came to New York, I felt more knowledge than, even though I was a rookie, than most of the people. I felt Nicky Magallanes was a wonderful partner, but he didn't have the knowledge I had. He was a natural too. He just seemed to have silk hands and did everything right, and a real gentleman. But I noticed he didn't have what Nancy Johnson gave me, and I'm glad to get a chance to speak about this wonderful teacher. And
she worked with you when you were in the school or when you were in the company, because even though you say you were a rookie, you were a principal with the San Francisco Ballet when you came to the New York City Ballet.
I was pretty young, so I felt still as a rookie. We didn't dance that much in San Francisco.
I see.
Yeah, it was, we did, our employment actually was 3 months of opera ballet. And then we had our season, but it wasn't much until we started touring. And we did the Far East tour, and we went all the way around the world. It was great. It was, but actually, hours on the boards with true ballet, it wasn't that much. New York, as a matter of fact, New York also, at that time when people weren't dancing that much. So when I joined the New York City Ballet, I came here and 6 months layoff. I mean, they went on a 6 months layoff, and I had to dance at music hall to get by, to make a living. So that used to be what it, now this all year round. And but in those days, it wasn't that. And then there was this tremendous explosion in the ballet world. And finally, we all wanted, in the end, vacations. When the vacation, you know. But I remember when it was long periods of drought.
But not in the year 1960 when Liebeslieder was made. I'm not sure if there's another year where Mr. Balanchine made more ballets and revived, plus the revivals. He revived Sonnambula that January, I think it was. He made something like 8 ballets in 1960.
Gee, I'm not sure about times, but my first season with the company, he did Stars and Stripes. He did Gounod, a wonderful plush sort of French ballet. He did Agon, and let's see what else.
Square dance, maybe?
Square dance, and I was in square dance. I was in everything, and and he just, well, Balanchine, it flowed out of him, and he wouldn't start. When he'd do a ballet, most choreographers go from the beginning and they go to the end, and he would have a rehearsal here. He'd be at the end, and he'd go somewhere else, and he'd be in the middle. He knew what he wanted to do, and it was amazing. He was amazing. That was certainly what a wonderful experience it was. It was a gift to be around. I mean, I can't describe it. And he was so happy, and he was whistling when he went down the street. And I was in one of the great times, I think, of New York City Ballet and of Balanchine's creativity. Everything clicked until I was drafted. They needed me in the Army, even though we were going to the on a tour. They couldn't get out with Lincoln Kirstein writing letters and but no, they needed me, so I went to Korea for a couple of years and came back. I got on the plane in my Army uniform, came back, my boots were on. I came into the studio. Balanchine said, "Come on, get in here." And suddenly I'm doing
in your Army uniform?
And everyone was laughing, and so I went along with it. And anyway, it was fun. And so, but I'm just saying, the shock of being in the rice paddies and suddenly being in it again was good. It was wonderful that they had me back.
Did you see combat in Korea?
Oh, no. No. Unfortunately, I didn't. Unfortunately, because I don't get any GI benefits. So I was just a human unit number, I can't remember, 5669987, something. So no, but you know, that was interesting. While I was there, I went on R&R to Japan. I went to a ballet performance, and there was Paul Szilard and a lot of the dancers and Kopeikin, the pianist.
Kopeikin, yes.
And they all urged me to quit the Army and join the company. And I actually was tempted. No, my citizenship is very valuable to me, so I would never think of doing something like that. But
well,
anyway,
many people, including many ballerinas, are very glad that you returned to the New York City Ballet.
In 3 months, I was dancing. I danced the Nutcracker pas de deux with Maria Tolci, one of my idols. So it was because of my partnering skills, not certainly my dancing. And as a matter of fact, at that time, I couldn't, if I did a glissade, I had to say, push my leg, pull my leg, push, pull. I had to concentrate. Most people it's a language, they just do it without thinking. But I had to think of every little move, because you lose a lot in 2 years. And so that was quite a shock. And then I don't know what they were thinking. Should have given me more time. But I was doing Tchaikovsky pas de deux in 6 months. And the variation was 3 times as long as it is presently. So anyway.
Really?
Yeah, it was a struggle. So I think
so the music
I should have really had time to get back into shape. I don't think I ever did get back into the condition I was when I was with San Francisco Ballet. So.
You did it in Apollo, did you not?
Yes, I've done that in San Francisco.
And that was at Jacob's Pillow? That's the one that's filmed?
Yes. So go see that. That's I would say that's myself at the best. It was a good one, and so I'm very pleased. If I tell my students if they want to see anything of me, go to the library and see Apollo.
Well, that's you were coached by Lou Christensen, is
yes,
that correct?
Lou was the original American.
Apollo.
Apollo. And some of the pictures, you can see how good he was. And I did have some coaching from Maria Talchief, who was there too. And Lou was also in the Army. He spent 7 years during World War II and as a Marine. So that ended his dancing for sure. So yeah, he was I think one of the they all think that he was one of the very best Apollos.
Yes, indeed. Well, going from Parnassus and the rice paddies to Amalienburg in Munich, which was apparently the inspiration for the location of Liebeslieder, Amalienburg.
I'm not sure any of the history of it.
Okay.
He never gave us backgrounds or
he didn't.
Or
he
wouldn't give us. He never said, like I was saying, I felt, and Jelana felt that we just figured we were the young couple, and then there was the business couple, Jonathan Watts and Melissa, and then there was the aristocratic people. That was Diana Adams and Bill Carter, and
Violette Verdi and Nicholas Magon.
Oh yes,
who were
the cultured.
The cultured people.
The cultured, sophisticated ones. So we all. That's my look at it, and again, I'm nearsighted, and so I had a front seat here, and I loved watching this ballet, and it was my favorite ballet to do. And I had Jelana, who was gorgeous, to dance with. It was just party time.
Did you say earlier that it was also Mr. Balanchine's favorite ballet, or?
I didn't hear that until today.
Oh, it was a dancer
Yes.
who told you?
Yes, an old dancer.
Well, when the ballet started, did he gather the entire cast and start working with everyone? Did he take you couple by couple? How did the rehearsals proceed on this?
Well, he'd take couple by couple, and then he'd start to put us together, and then for the groups, things, and so forth. So I remember when we get together for the group, we'd all see the new dances. And there was a lot of tension with the ladies, I think.
Oh, really?
Oh, because they were all jealous. The next thing looked better than they had, and the next thing was even better than, it just, because every piece is gorgeous, and so there was, everyone, and these were the ballerinas, and they all wanted to have the best dance, so there was tension, and this one has something better than I have, and so there's competition there, and the tension was pretty heavy there. But somehow not for Jelana. She just, we weren't.
Sailed above
but
it?
I felt that tension and nervousness when we go to work together as a group.
But the gentlemen didn't share that, just the ladies?
Oh, I'm not sure. I just felt it more from the women, I think the men were probably all, they see one gorgeous thing, they'd like to do that. And it was for somebody else and so forth. So it was, I don't know, mainly the ladies, I think.
Could you describe how Jelana looked as a dancer at the time that you began to work with her on Liebeslieder? Just your memory of her as a dancer.
she was beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Ideal person, beautiful, gorgeous. Anyone looks at her pictures or sees her dancing in a film. I think when she did Liebeslieder, she put a lot of feeling into it and so forth. And I think a lot of it was her own. You know, I mean, Balanchine didn't coach presence and projection, particularly. He just had this. He gave you the steps, you danced it, and oftentimes with me, I didn't learn so fast like the kids did now, and so I'd learn something, and then he'd say, "Conrad, go home and make." Now that didn't mean I changed steps. I do the steps, but I put an interpretation to it. And he always trusted me. And so now and then he'd say, "No, I don't want you. The way you're pulling back with leaning back and pulling, no, I don't want that, I want this." So if it was wrong, but so often I had a good interpretation. So I guess he knew I read him pretty well.
So he trusted you to shape the role from within?
Yes.
Essentially?
That's what was wonderful about working with him. You felt that you were creating something within the choreography, not changing it, but within that, what he gave you, there was freedom to do. And be surprised, there's quite a lot you can do. And I find sometimes, if a dancer can't do that, and I think Balanchine picked his principal dancers because most of them could do this creating within the framework of something, such as Violette. You know, she would have stories about things and about every, you know, she never just danced. It was always expression and why she's doing it and a force to it. And I'm sure if he said, "No, I don't like that," that would be, you'd leave it and do what he wanted, the best, most. But there was that, it wasn't every little finger, he never told you every little thing to do. No. That's why I think it was just fun everyone wanted to work with him, because he was like that and allowed that freedom.
A lot of space.
A lot of space for the internal
space. What about, I'll call it the wrench, that moment you were showing to Tyler Angle and Rachel Rutherford, where Balanchine wanted resistance in the girl, and you said it was really like he was...
He gave you exactly what he wanted, but I think, like I say, it was so hard to do. I don't think we got it, and I know we didn't get it. So, but I know what he wanted, but we couldn't seem to do it. So we sort of failed him, you know, in that way.
But what's the story of that phrase? I mean, what do you think is happening?
It's movement. I don't know what the story would be there. It's just sort of, it's more of a poetic kind of, what he wanted was the boy down and getting down, sort of bowing, and the resistance, just, it makes that look, there's a look to it that has a power to it. I can't explain it. When he looks at her, beautiful, runs and says he's going to say something. Now, I would say, I'm going to propose. And then I get cold feet. And she's looking at me, and I look at her, and I get nervous, so I go down. Okay, that doesn't have any, that's, see, where, or I could say, in storyline, I could just say, I'm going to ask, we should leave and get out of here. go somewhere. For, you know, we don't have to be here, or something like that. So that would be in storyline, but I think what I always, almost all the time, in my mind, I'd say, and then I'd see her, and then I cold feet, and I cowered out, so I bowed to her, and she said, she was waiting, she waits, and nothing happens, and then she pets you, puts your hand down. So that's all that is. Just, but there's some little expression there, you know what I'm saying. In my mind, I'm doing that. I don't know what Balanchine would say, serenade. There's so many stories that people have about serenade. And he said there was nothing. I mean, he never said there was anything about anything. So he never explained how you should do something. He expected you, through his movement, to know, and through the music to know. He trusted you to have that, and that was how he picked people, I think.
The music is set to these poems. Now, you had said during the rehearsal
and
that
we didn't know. Nobody knew what the songs were. At least I didn't. I just went with the music, too, and I didn't need to know what was being said. It wasn't, somehow that never was important to me. And so I was just so surprised when this wonderful little light dance turns out to be an old woman talking about her old age or something. So that was a surprise. And then also the fact that you can't, ballet, I hate poems or any kind of literature in ballet. It just doesn't work. The spoken word is so harsh, and ballet is poetry, basically. It's just, that's the way it moves and everything. It is ruined by language. So if you're listening to a ballet, it doesn't work. It just, to me, it doesn't work. So I wouldn't even want to know what it said. But I've seen some dances that have been set to poems and to things like this, and it doesn't work for me. Anyway.
Well, there is the moment when everyone just doesn't dance and just listens, and that's Goethe, of course, Goethe's poem. That's different.
When we're sitting there, yes.
Yeah,
then you
and
listen.
the misery and happiness of love.
He gives the musicians their due,
Their due.
and it's a lovely piece that they do. And they were wonderful too. He always, music was always, he felt he said that if you go to a performance, you should, to his company, you could come and close your eyes, and the music would be worth the price of the ticket. And I think that's true. We had a wonderful orchestra. The singers were wonderful. And of course, pianists were good.
Well, your pianist for Liebeslieder included Robert Irving, who was the conductor. So, famous for being fast. Faster than Balanchine.
Oh, yeah. I do have little stories to say about that. Irving wanted, evidently, a composer puts down a time that it should be a meter. And he didn't, when he choreographed the second movement of Concerto Barocco, surprisingly, he didn't watch the meter. So it was too slow. Irving kept pushing it, and we try to get through it, all like that. Anyway, it was really hard, and it got harder and harder, and finally one day, and Balanchine was asking him, and he said, "Okay, that's it, we're going to do it again." "Oh no, wait." Irving changed his mind. Suddenly we had a nice tempo for it. But it took that to, he was going to remove the ballet and not do it again. Because you couldn't change it, you know, it was just, it was in there. But he never made that mistake again. He always looked at and said, what's the meter, and checked it, and so forth, of anything. So, but we almost lost Barocco.
Barocco. I just have only one more question, and that is, you had said that Mr. Balanchine made changes, that there were versions, at least of your and Joanna's pas de deux. Could you just explain what you meant? And did he made changes to everyone's pas de deux over time, or?
Yes. As a matter of fact, Symphony in C. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, Symphony in C. Okay. I would, we'd be in the wings, and I danced with everybody in the company. I mean, almost every ballerina did that part one time or another. And they'd say, and he'd be coming by, and they'd say, "Oh, Mr. B, would you look at me? Could you see what I'm doing?" And he always looked at everything with fresh eyes. Everything new. Let's see what you're doing. Okay. And it would be, well, let's try this, and we'll do that, and we do this. He'd tinker with it. So that person would do something. Then I had about 5 different things. So one little pas de deux would have all these different versions.
And that's
so
true.
he changed it for almost everybody. I got, oh my God, don't ask. Leave it what we're doing. But he'd always do stuff, always new, always creating new. So it's not unusual at all for him to adjust. He didn't think his stuff was set in, well, especially it was his stuff, so he didn't think that changing it in any way would if he thought it was going to look better, if he felt that way about this person or that, he would he'd try to make them look as beautiful as they could be, and yeah, he was.
Well, you did dance it with Mimi Paul and with Kay Mazo, the Liebeslieder I'm talking about.
Right.
And he made changes for each of those ballerinas?
No, I think Liebeslieder was pretty straight and pretty, you know, mostly it was just that one, the first part, the second dance of the first part that we did, the ones with the slides and slides, that for some reason he didn't like what we're doing. We had some lifts that it was too fast or it didn't work. And finally, there's just that fake lift. And so that looks better. You've got, you know, I think it just, and now I think it's a little gem, what he did, from what we did before. I think, and that's why I didn't try to go back to the original, because I felt he would have liked this one that we just did this time. This is, and it all fits together. It's just like a jewel to me.
Right. Well, is there anything I haven't asked that you feel would be important for someone who is watching your coaching session to know about this ballet?
No, I've said it before. It was, once you're into it, it's very easy to do, and it was just a pleasure to be out there and dancing this particular piece. The music is gorgeous. All the dances are good. I enjoy watching fellow artists do a wonderful job. It was amazing how really everybody in my period of time I thought was amazing, you know. Yeah. And
the golden age, Joanna called it.
Well, yeah, for me it was.